Are we allowed to swear on this podcast, on this YouTube channel?
Kendra might swear on this podcast.
I want to swear. No. I don't.
That was a good way to put it. I was wondering how to say it.
It's like blah, blah, blah. If my ex-husband was a turd, I would use more harsh language, but I don't know. I don't want you
to censor yourself.
I know. Good.
A feminist moment with my friend Kendra on My Great and Spacious World. So, the temple.
The temple.
I knew that there was going to be some crazy stuff. So I guess I was like expecting more crazy stuff.
Yeah, well, they make it like, oh, it's super weird. And so you think we're going to be like slaughtering goats or something.
Yeah. So when I didn't slaughter a goat, I was like, I guess it wasn't that bad. Some of the sexist stuff in the temple didn't bother me because I was going to get married and I was like in love. And I was like, of course I'll follow my husband. How I always justified it in my head is I don't mind following John because John's righteous. But we'll get into a little more of how my ideas.
I think I felt the same way. So I've been married before and then got divorced.
Mormon shame.
But I think I didn't think much about the words because it's just so overwhelming. When you first go through, there's like so much weird language and you're dressed weird and you're like, you just feel awkward. And then also your family's like sitting there staring at you. And so you don't want to be like, we're in a cult. Like, this is crazy. You don't, and so it's just, I didn't think about it much. So I went through, and so I didn't think much of the language. But my ex-husband, he used the words of the temple to control me. And so that pointed out things in the temple that I wouldn't have noticed normally.
Okay. So tell us about your experience with the temple.
Okay, so the temple is always like this pinnacle of our religion. Like, it is. We sing songs about it. Like, every time we came to town, it'd be like, "Where's the temple? Where's the temple?"
Yes, and so many young woman lessons.
Yeah,
about the temple.
And it's always like, this is where your answers will be.
Yes,
and this is like everything that you are working towards the temple. It is the pinnacle of everything you're working for. So going through, I expected this like overwhelming spirit, like. And I expected answers, and I wasn't getting it. I was getting more questions, and I felt weird. Like, I felt like I expected to feel the spirit, and I just felt disconnected. Like, awful,
confused,
rushed. Yeah. And the thing is, I always felt like my dislike of the temple was my fault. Like, I was broken somehow. There's so many women and so many men that just love going to the temple. And so I just thought me not going was something wrong with me versus there's something wrong with the temple. And so going through the temple, the first time I didn't really notice much. I just think I was like overwhelmed with everything. But then afterwards, and after I got married, which...
This was your first marriage.
First marriage, yes. My husband now is amazing.
Confirmed. He is amazing.
He is amazing. But my first marriage, we didn't date very long, and so we didn't know each other very well. But there's that talk that any righteous young woman and any righteous man can make a marriage work. And so I thought I was in love. I didn't want to go on a mission. That was like the biggest thing. I was getting old at the right age of 21. I was old. So I didn't want to go on a mission. I had my mission call. I wanted to be married and have children. That's what I wanted to do. So I thought I had a righteous desire to get married to a righteous man, and we were going to create this wonderful life. And the temple was the start of it.
Yes.
There's so much in the temple that like sets you up if you don't have a man who thinks women are equal.
Or even if you're not with someone who's respectful.
Yes. And because we didn't date very long, I didn't ask those questions. It didn't occur to me that he would look at me any different than him. But my marriage was bad.
Your first husband.
My first husband. Ex-husband. We should call him a name. Tom. Tom was awful. And so he would use, our marriage was just not good to begin with. We just weren't compatible. But he used the words of the temple all the time to control me. Like, if there was something that we were doing and I was being rebellious or I had an opinion,
that might contradict his.
Oh man, he would have family home evenings where it was centered around things that I was doing wrong. Anyways,
and you had to hearken unto him because
you promised.
That
word, hearken.
You promised in the temple to do that. And you promised in your marriage
where you bow your head and say yes. Like, what is this? Yes. Like, isn't this such a submissive?
But even in the ceremony when you get married, you hearken to him and he hearkens to God.
Yeah.
Your whole marriage was set up to function in this way. It was
yours was too.
Yes. That's true.
But yeah, so the hearken was the big one. And so I've left Mormonism before they did the temple changes. From what I understand, they've taken that word out.
But your whole experience, it was in.
Oh yeah. And it still affects me to this day. Okay, I kept going through because my ex-husband, Tom, loved the temple because I think it gave him power, and it was a way for him to put me in a place without like physically being like, you're wrong and this is why, because he could just have the temple tell me I was wrong. So when I was going through, they have that line, what is it? A king and a priest to God for men, and I thought that would parallel for women. You'll be a queen and priestess to God, but it's not that way. Well, it probably is now. I have no idea.
And that's probably why it was such a jolt to your system, because you were expecting that to be a priestess to God, and then
because I love God.
And then when they said husband, you're like, well, wait, what?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It created this separation. There was. Instead of being connected to God, instead of going to God about my fears and my questions, I had to go, my husband was in the way. I had to go through my husband to get to God. And the veil was the same way, like covering your face with the veil. I felt separated from God. I'm unworthy for God to look at me. And so the temple has always been super awful for me because it created these barriers to God.
One thing I was kind of sensitive about was that my husband got to know my name, but I didn't get to know his.
Yes.
So my resurrection was dependent on my husband, him doing everything right and getting there, and him remembering my name.
Yeah. We all know that guys can't remember anything. Like...
I just didn't like the feeling that I wasn't in control of my salvation, that my salvation depended on someone.
Yeah, and I think the reason for that stems from polygamy. So the temple was started because of polygamy. It was a way to like keep people in the secret society and the secret. So the temple is set up for polygamy, in my opinion, because
if it was between a man and a woman, how would it look different?
Yeah, I would know. So if you're my husband, I would know your name and you would know my name, and we would go together.
Yeah.
Like towards God, right? But it's not that way. The man knows the woman's name, so he can know other women's names. So he can pull all his wives through.
And he can't give his name to one wife because then he wouldn't be able to give it to other wives.
Yeah.
It's not just the name. You were talking about like the giving. The women give themselves to the man, but the man can't give himself to her because he has to save himself for many.
And that's in the sealing. Yeah. And I didn't realize that until even after my second marriage, my current marriage, where I was studying the temple, I'm trying to understand it better, that I realized the words that I had married my husband with were that way. Like, I gave myself to him, he received me, and never gave himself to me. And that is so hurtful. So I brought it to my husband's attention, and he's like, well, I give myself to you now. Like,
that's why he's so awesome, ladies and gentlemen. He's so awesome. He gave himself to you. Yeah. He didn't even have to be commanded to.
It's hurtful because I don't think women realize words are important. And I don't think when you're going through or getting married, because you only get married once, supposedly, in Mormon culture, because for eternity, you're just supposed to love the same person for always and you never change. And you're supposed to know that when you're 18. Because that's when you gotta get married and start popping out babies.
Did you talk about your body?
But I felt like that went in.
Should we do it later?
Polygamy, like the baby making for eternity. It's our role. Which, did they say that in the temple? It's all like strength in the loins.
No. In the marriage ceremony, it says to go and have posterity, and that's where your joy will be. I know it's in the marriage ceremony, something about having posterity, because my dad rolled his eyes so hard.
Why?
Because I was his oldest, and he thought he was too young to be a grandpa.
Oh.
So when we asked him if we could get married, he said, sure, just no babies.
That's funny.
I'm like, Dad, don't roll your eyes. You're so silly.
Oh, my biggest thing is that our sealer was like, don't look at each other. You need to be looking at me. And I'm in love. I want to look at my husband while we're getting married, but it's going to look at this old man while I get married to my husband.
And I had to cover my beautiful dress up.
Yeah, I didn't even wear mine.
I looked like a weirdo.
We all do.
Okay, guys. I'm so glad that Kendra was able to come and talk to us today.
I hope I didn't talk too much.
She was super nervous. If you like this, give it a thumbs up. Give her some encouraging comments down below. I want her to come back and talk about polygamy. So write that in the comments if you're interested in an episode on polygamy. And we'll see you next time. Sorry, let's do that again.
So the only thing is that the young men actually got to go like do really fun things like skiing and scouts, cool things like that, and we had to stay home and learn how to knit. And I was like, I hate knitting. Like, why do I have to be a woman and knit?
Yes, and it's important for you guys to know Kendra loves adventure, and she's always the first one to jump in. Which
jump off a waterfall? Let's do it.
Yes. Yeah. She's the first one in, and that's not how women are typically raised in the church. We're to like sit back and stay back,
submissive
and let
a little bit,
and let the men go and have fun, and
we
take care of the stuff. We just went packing the lunches for them to go skiing.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Why didn't we do that as young women? I could totally see my young women leaders like, we need to pack the lunch so they can go skiing. So I think that was the only thing up until the temple that really bothered me. And then the temple was like,